Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Another Monday night, we are back in action. All three of us over here after a weekend where we got 3 points closer to the title, 5 points off of the magic number, heading full blast towards number 20 over here. I am your host, as always, Timuchin here in the windy damn city. That's for sure. It is windy as hell over there, but it is kind of like spring-like weather, so I can't complain about temperatures, but damn, it is windy out there right now. But Gally is with us. Gally, what's happening?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. First day back after a week off vacation in Florida. It's never a fun day, but always good to get with you guys, especially after a victory.
Are you saying after Victor we're like Bickler is intolerable, so you don't want to deal with us after losing points, or what?
Well, I mean, if I had to work all week last week and then we dropped points and then I had to go to work on Monday, yeah, it's a lot more difficult to deal with you fuckers than whether I was off for a week, went back to work, and we have something fun to talk about tonight. Like, let's get into it.
Yeah, there's like a lot of interesting stuff, actually. Some stuff to take away from this weekend overall. Bickler, what's happening with you?
Just 80 with a chance of pollen down here. We're just hanging out, coated in a yellow just layer of sludge.
I got to ask you, I got all the way through the Premier League show without asking, but I have to ask before we go any further. Is that a tie-dye shirt, or is that like one of those color-changing heat wave shirts when we were kids where people could walk up to you and put their hands on your shirt and it would start changing colors? Because that's what it looks like. Oh, it is from the 80s. It's Barry Sanders.
The tie-dye Barry Sanders shirt, because, I don't know. I hate jam bands, so I figured I'd just replace it with my next favorite thing, Barry Sanders.
Oh, wait, so it is a tie-dye or is it color change?
Oh, yeah, it's tie-dye. Yeah.
Oh, it is a tie-dye. Okay. Yeah,
Damn.
I noticed that, and that's the first thing I thought of, but I was like, Bickler looks natural in a tie-dye. I don't know what that tells us, but, right? He does look natural in a tie-dye. It didn't look way off, like the blue hats he wears. That one sticks out right away, but this one was like, I can see that. That's all Bickler right there. So, oh, I hear the piano people.
And there go all the viewers.
Yeah. It looks like the shirt of somebody who would suck at trivia.
Okay, let's go with the trivia. It's a good one, and actually, you guys can thank BJ for making it slightly easier for you guys. And everybody joining us. See, I play the music. It's like a calling. Everybody is just like joining the live broadcast. So welcome, everybody. Hit the thumbs up and all that kind of good stuff. It really helps the show, actually. Some poor soul who doesn't know about us will be exposed to trivia thanks to your thumbs up, probably. Okay, so trivia, here we go. And the music is really cute in the background, so let me kind of turn that down a little bit. Okay, here we go. So this is going to be slightly more Salah related, obviously, with the contract news and everything. So how many Premier League seasons have ended with Liverpool players being the league's top goal scorer? Let's start with the how many. We'll go into who, when, how many.
Oh, God. Is this Price is Right rules where if you're over, you're automatically disqualified?
Hands on
wait for Bickler. Bickler goes first then.
No,
Bickler always goes first. Bickler, what do you have?
I hate this. I'll go 12. Wait, do you say Premier League or like?
Yeah,
Premier
League.
Premier League.
Oh, that changes it. I'll go 6. I don't think that's right.
Damn you. That was the number I was going to take.
There's got to be some perks of sandbagging for you.
Sergi is going with B, and that's not a correct answer.
I think B was him starting to put explicitives into the chat about the freaking music that was playing. I'm going to say 4.
Man, it's the tie-dye. It's the tie-dye effects. Because the
6.
answer,
It was my 6.
Answer is 6. The tie-dye wins. You pass the buck to Vickler, and he nails it. So 6. So let's see over here. Who? Give me years and names.
No years. Years is bullshit. That's too much work.
God damn it. God dang it. You're worse.
Well, Mo Salah's one of them.
Good job. Cookie for you. Who else do we have?
Did Suarez finish the top one of those years?
How many for Mo?
Is it 3 for Mo?
Is it 3 for Mo, Bickler?
I don't know. I'm going to guess it's 3 for Mo.
Owen?
Listen, I don't know any of this extra credit bullshit. You just asked me the question. I guessed it correctly. That's where
I'm going to say it was 3 for Mo, and it was 1 for Suarez.
Yeah.
3 for Mo, 1 for Suarez.
Did Torres ever hit one? I don't think he did.
So we'll start with 97, 98, 98, 99 seasons. Would be?
I mean, that's Owen, right?
Owen. So that's good old Michael Owen. The next one is the 2013-2014 season.
Suarez.
And actually Sturridge was second that year with 21.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that. That was another year.
2017-2018 Mo with 32. 2018-2019 Mo and Mane together tied.
That's right. That's right.
That's Mo obviously 21-22 with 23 goals over there. So a lot of goals tied up and extended for 2 years over there. So we'll definitely talk about that as we get into going, looking ahead to the very distant future. But let's go back to the weekend first. Performance-wise, honestly, it was pretty dominant, but not. When I was looking at the stats, we were going over the stats this morning with Mateusz. I actually was shocked when I saw the stats, Bickler, because it looked like that first half was a lot more dominant, but it was apparently not converted to big chances and shots on goal and stuff like that. But then we go through the second half where we kind of go down to a second gear. Is this kind of what we should expect in some ways the rest of the year, knowing it's kind of human nature where these guys are kind of going? So I know it's not the ultimate professional thing, but they are still human, where especially when they have a lead and stuff. I think with similar stuff happened in the Fulham game, really. When we got the lead, we kind of geared down right away. Should we be expecting more of this rest of the season, not like the previous performances?
Yeah, I think we should, but I don't think that it's okay. I want to clarify. I think we should, but I don't think that we should be in the position to have to, if that makes sense. I think we should, because I don't think this manager trusts his entire squad. I think he entrusts 13, 14, 15, and then there's a pretty steep drop off of players that he doesn't want involved. When you look at it, there's no reason to me that we shouldn't feel as deep as a Newcastle side, who's playing lights out. They're playing complete games. If you watch Newcastle from the opening kickoff to the final kickoff, they're playing complete matches. I don't feel like we put together a complete performance in about 3 months. And I think that has to do a lot with the fact that we don't have a squad that's truly our managers. They're a group of players that were selected by Jurgen Klopp and played by Jurgen Klopp. And I think it makes it really challenging. One of the things that we liked out of Orange Slot right out of the gate is that he clearly makes tactical adjustments. But I think we're finding right now as the season goes on, and I think the longer that I think what he had at his disposal at the beginning of the season is the inability to play favorites, because he hadn't had enough experience with these guys yet. And so it was rotating. And the longer it goes, we're seeing less and less rotation. And I think that speaks to the fact that he is making his mind up against about players as the season has progressed. And in a way, it's handcuffing his ability to make those decisions he was earlier in the season. And I think we're going to continue to see that the end of the season. I mean, it's just tough. You can't, I said, we have a terrible first half 2 weeks ago and a great second half, a great first half this one and a bad second half. And I felt like every substitution he made, we'll get into this later, but I thought the substitutions kind of went the opposite way that he really wanted to go. And I just don't know that he had a whole lot of choice.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation is going to automatically come to the substitutions. I guess I'm kind of torn on this, Gally, because in some ways, the way to offset that would be to give some more minutes to the guys that are more hungry. And normally I would say starts, but the downfall of that is we only play once a week, and it's probably not fair to bench some of these guys and tell tell McAllister or Gravenberg or whatever, well, why don't you have a seat? We'll wake you up when the parade starts. For all these guys who basically brought you to the title run, about to seal it. So it's only fair for those guys to be on the pitch as this being sealed and won. But at the same time, to kind of keep that team almost fresh and eager, feels like the only way to do it is maybe put some of these guys who are more hungry for those minutes.
Yeah, I just don't know that. I don't know that he cares about their appetite, to be honest. Like, as hungry as they are. Harvey's hungry. Every chance someone puts a microphone in his face, he lets everyone know how much he loves his club, wants to be at this club, expects to play at this club, and can't understand why he doesn't play at this club. But he doesn't walk into the manager's office or the coach's office and ask that because he knows the answer. Because you're not my midfielder. And you never will be. And I hate saying that because I really love the player, but it's evident. Like, to me, like, there were opportunities to bring him on. I will say, to Paul's point earlier, and we'll get to the subs, if the manager had a moment this season where he actually looked off or had a bad day at the office, it felt like it was the decisions he made on Sunday. And I know it worked out and we won, but it didn't feel that way under any pretense, to be honest. It felt to me like that was a much more arduous task than it should have been when you go up 1-0 in the first 20 minutes of a match that you're dominating to start. Yeah. And to your point, Tim, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, we dominated that. And then you look at the stats and you're like, wait, they had more big chances in the first half than we did. And let's be real. If Mavropanos connects on that header at the end of the first half, we're all doing the same thing at halftime, like screaming bloody murder that we're 1-1 drawed level, and we gave up another weak goal on a set piece that didn't make any sense. And I think it's hard anytime you substitute 50%. You substitute 50% of your starting defensive line. You bring in 2 new fullbacks, and then in the middle of the second half, you take out 2 of your back line, and then you wonder why it looks disjointed. And we'll get to the subs, but I think this is more about the manager is like, let's get to that point where every club has to give us that guard of honor walking out, and then I'll let you guess who the starters are going to be. And maybe I'll sprinkle a player or 2 in. But if I were the manager, I've said this before, I wouldn't be looking, Tim, to the guys who are the hungriest. I'd be looking to the guys that I want to run the rule over to figure out what their role is for next year. And if a guy like Harvey Elliott is already out of the manager's plans, it is terrible to say this. Or Chiesa, I have no issue if they see 0 minutes from here to the end of the year. Because at this point, we win this title, and it's all about preparing for next year's defense of that title and winning more trophies later. And to me, I think, other than putting a guy in the shop window, this should be about playing Curtis Jones. This should be about figuring out where Bradley rolls and how much of a right back investment do we need to make. And more to your comments or to what you care about tonight, just convince me there is no way I want this Greek guy anywhere near Liverpool. Just shoot him.
Don't steal my thunder. But no, yeah. Sorry. We'll get to that one.
We'll get there, I'm sure.
I can definitely do it with seeing Costas playing left back again. But I guess here's the thing with that. And here's where I'm torn. I'm really torn which way to go on this one, because these guys, I think, going back to what you're saying, Yali, obviously, if they're not getting minutes, and if they're not going to be, I would think Bickler, he already knows next year's plan. Like, we did this, I can't remember what it was, 2 years ago or last year, where we with Curtis Jones, we played him, gave him a run of games, as I like to say, and he played 6-7 starts at the end of the season. And we kind of took that as, okay, trying to figure it out, how he fits in this. And he does fit in this. When he gets a run of games, he plays a lot better and all that kind of stuff. Do you think there's any chance any of these guys get that, or the determination is already made? I know all the fans are like, oh, yeah, we want to see him. Doesn't matter what you see or what we see. I would assume at this point, we're almost in May over here. He's been working with these guys for like 7, 8 months. Slot already knows if they fit, if they're gonna work or not. I don't think he needs to see them during the game. Is it risky to throw these guys out there if it's just for the shop window? Because it can go both ways. They can play really well, increase their price. Would they get a shot at maybe earning minutes, or they can do a stinker and you just lower their value probably?
So your original question is, do I think that we're going to
I
see
have 3 questions at once.
Yeah, do I think we're going to see fringe players get a run out after this thing is locked up?
Would you like to see it? I guess more than will we?
Would I like to see it? I mean, I'm in the same school of thought as Gally. Yes, I would like to see it, but but what's going to happen is the players that we see get a run out are the players that are going to be here next year. And that's like, I'm all for that, because like, I think if he's playing around with formations in chemistry, in how certain players link together in certain formations, like I'm here for that. I'm here to see that. I don't know what benefit you get giving a run on a player that you're going to sell. Like, I don't know how much. Like, if you give Harvey a run, are you really increasing his value that much? Probably not. You're just running an increased risk of an injury for that player. But if you did run out a player like Darwin and he scores in 4 of the last 5 and you're selling him anyway, there's something to be said about that. I just think that the players that we're going to see get run out are the players that he's planning on keeping that'll be here next year. And I honestly think that there's probably like 2 or 3 of those that we'll see, and I think everybody else is probably gone.
So by you're saying, Victor, before I move on back to shift it over to Gally, so you're saying none of these guys, regardless of what they do, and when I say these guys, I think we just saw Costas, but I made the ruling on that one already, so we don't have to see him again.
We sold him 2 years ago.
I'm going to be ahead of this question. I don't think any of these fringe players are changing the manager's mind in the last month.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
I don't. He's seen a whole season of them in training throughout the year. The ones that we love, the ones that we consider fringe players, and the ones that we want to see, the Chiesas, the Harveys, like those guys that we actually genuinely like, and as part of the side, guys, we would see more of them. They would be playing 100%. More minutes if they were going to be here. Like, I love Chiesa. I'm going to be kind of heartbroken the fact that this doesn't work out, but we would have seen more of him, way more of him.
I'm on the same boat, especially with Chiesa. I think we've seen enough of Nunez. I don't think anybody's saying, even Boaz, who was in the audience right now, is saying, like, I need to see more of Nunez to make up my mind. I think we know what we're getting there, and you either like it or you don't. I think most of us don't like it as opposed to those who do. Elliott is probably, like, to me, Gally, out of all those players, Elliott and Chiesa are the 2 that we talked about. Elliott, like, where does he really fit and stuff like that, but we've seen him come in and do good things at the same time. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's good enough for slots, but the Chiesa thing, I'm on the same thing with Bickler. I almost feel like a little disappointed that, because I was really looking forward to it working out, and I don't feel like he got a chance, one reason or another, which we do not know what the reason is, to be honest with you, but he did not get a chance to be able to see if it would work out. Are you in agreement with Bickler, though, in terms of none of these guys can do anything in the last 6 weeks here to kind of say, you know what, let's go to summer and decide afterwards?
Yeah, I just feel like Chiesa was a guy where they signed and they brought him in. The coach brought him into his office and said, hey, just so you know, we got these 6 attackers. We're going to start 3 of them. And just so you know, if the other fucking 2 are on the bench, you're not going to play. Like, that's it. Like, you're not going to get in. They're going to go in before you. And it's almost the same with Elliott. Hey, I got these 3 midfielders, and I love them. Let me show you how much I love them. I'm going to play them until they literally look geriatric at times. And by the way, I got this other midfielder, the young Scouser kid. He's the only one I trust other than those three I play every minute of every game. Except for when there's 10 minutes to go with a lead, I'm going to bring that old man who doesn't speak English at the end of the bench in, and he's going to come in and see this freaking thing out. And I feel like when you're Elliott or Chiesa, maybe even Kwanzaa on the like outside of this, you start to like look at things and start thinking about your career. You start thinking about what's happening. Like, it's unfortunate. I'll be disappointed as well. But none of this is surprising. And I will say this. The three of us talked about this when they brought in Arne Slot. And it was right during preseason. And it was that weird moment where we were seeing weird lineups and players and which players will he like, which one he won't he like. And I remember us having a conversation where we said, this guy is being given 12 months to run the rule over the whole club. And at the end of the day, we will be shocked with 2 or 3 of the players that he decides are not for the program. And to me, that's Harvey Elliott. Like, the number one guy that surprises me is not part of the future. I thought he would have a role in some way, shape, or form. His age, his profile, his talent levels. It doesn't fit what the manager wants. And I think we talked about this too with Trent. Like, maybe he doesn't want a right back that wants to win the Ballon d'Or. He just wants a right back to play fucking right back. Like, and I think in some ways that's what we're seeing. Like, the manager said, hey, thanks, LFC. You gave me a $13 million flyer. And I knew 3 training sessions in, he wasn't my type of $13 million right wing. I'm good. Thanks. I'll re-sign and I really believe that's where we're at. Like, I think the manager knew what he was doing. I think he had a plan. And I think we've seen it kind of paint out throughout the season. And I think there's 4 or 5 players that are on their way out of the club. And there's probably 5 or 6 coming in when we probably need 8. And that's why I think this is a 2 to 3 window cycle before Arne Slot actually has his side. It might be 2027 when he feels like he can start to actually implement his actual ideals of football. Because I think it's going to take a little bit of a squad turnover because he's not Jurgen Klopp, as we've seen, with the way he approaches games, both with the lead and without it.
What does Arne say about Chiesa's questions? To be honest, media is so crap that they don't ask the good questions in these press conferences. One dude literally asked in this last press conference, what does Konate have to do to stay in games as they're chasing a game? He literally asked this in the press conference.
Konate?
Like, I mean, we had to put a striker in. So, no, I mean, it was literally like, there's nothing he can do unless he becomes a striker that Konate is going to stay in the game as we're chasing a game. Like, I took him out and put another attacker. But these are the questions, unfortunately, you get in those press conferences, not the really, like, the ones that we want the answers to kind of thing. I think the issue is, like, we have depth on paper, and maybe we like the depth. Like we like the players because, okay, let's say, we get biased over time too, maybe except against Costas. But that, like, we like these guys, right? Like, we've seen Elliott do so many things. We like the kid. We want him to do well, and we want him in there. Same thing with Nunez, despite his shortcomings. It's an easy guy to root for. We talked about that before, but it's not what we like about the depth. It's more like what Slot likes about the depth. But see, here's the thing now, Victor. We are saying though. And we said this, I mean, like Gally says, we talked about this a lot, right? Like, this is probably not necessarily what he wants to play, but he has the squad and he feels like this is the best way to play with this squad. So when we look at it, we say, well, Harvey doesn't fit as we see it right now, right? Or this guy doesn't work as we see it right now. Do you think there's a chance that a guy that we're all assuming is going to be gone because he doesn't fit actually ends up fitting when Slot starts to twist, adjust things, like Gally's saying, to his own way? Suddenly Elliott becomes ping because he's all along thinking that, and when I do this, that's when Elliott is going to be valuable, for example. Do you see a scenario like that, or am I just being
it feels like we're doing mental gymnastics to talk ourselves into Harvey Elliott staying? That's what that feels like. Listen, the only way that I see a player like Harvey staying is if the manager and him have a chat, and he says, "Hey, you know what I love you doing? I love you coming in as a fourth attacking option with 3 other like attackers when we're chasing a game, or when I need to when we need to unlock a low block and I need to put a fourth attacker in. Are you willing at your age in the prime of your career to be that player?" Like,
it better be no.
You know what, Gally? It should be no, but I don't know that it would be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't be, because I think he has the self-confidence that he believes that when he gets that shot, he'll earn the shot to move it forward. But, like, that kid can go somewhere in a big league. I think he could play.
You know what? And I think the difference between being a casual fan and like an actual supporter who follows this club is, I think if you actually follow this club, you want Harvey Elliott to be elsewhere. Because I think Harvey Elliott should be starting football at this age, because we've seen it at Fulham. We've seen it where, wherever he's gone, he has basically been a linchpin in a good way for a side from an offensive standpoint. And to watch him being sort of reduced to a bit part role when we're chasing matches, I don't think real supporters want to see that of Harvey.
He's a better player. He's a better player than James Madison all around.
Right.
He could be the number 10 at Spurs. And I know they're doing poorly now, but for 8 years they were in the Champions League, 6 of those 8 years. He could start in Serie A. He could start at some of the good clubs in the Premier League. Like, I mean, not that West Ham's a good club, but 3 years ago, they won a Europa Conference League, and they were in the Europa League semifinals the year before. Harvey Elliott would be their second best midfielder, and he could be an attacking prowess.
He'd be great in Force's system.
Okay, I'm happy for Harvey, but let's get back to us.
No, but my point is
you want a guy like that. Even if Harvey says, you know what, that's fine, I'm going to stay. I'll prove myself to get more than those minutes where we're chasing a game. Do you want a guy like that who's so much of a specialist on your bench? Because he automatically takes a squad spot away from this depth we talk about and then complain about afterwards. So even if he says okay to like Bickler's offer, that's the only thing I got for you. Do you want that as like part of the Liverpool club to have a guy like that who's like a specialist, like a field goal kicker? He only comes in on special occasions and takes away basically depth ultimately.
I'd say no, because I don't believe that's what the manager wants. And I think if the coach, or I should call him the coach, that's his role.
Coach.
What the coach wants, because if the coach wanted that, he'd be grooming him to even play that role. And he didn't even get that role. And a lot of times when we needed that player to come on. I mean, at times yesterday, you could have seen a reason to bring on Harvey Elliott, right? Like, you could have seen a reason, like, get Elliott on, get on the front foot. We had no one to get the ball. Once Mo wasn't the outlet, we had no out. Because our number 9 is no longer a player that can hold up the ball. There's no target for this side any longer. When things break down in midfield, there's nobody to give the ball to, especially when Jota isn't playing well, Mo isn't on the boil, and then you move Diaz into the middle. He's not going to hold the ball up anywhere. In some ways, it was like the guy they were screaming for was Curtis Jones, which was the guy they just took out at the time they needed him. So maybe he shouldn't have started. I just don't see where this manager, and I know what Boaz is saying there, Elliott loves Liverpool, but the truth of the matter is this club is getting to the point where they're not just going to keep players that love the club, because he takes up a homegrown slot. He takes up a spot in the roster, and it's minutes on the practice pitch. It takes time away from McConnell if the manager believes he is part of the future. It takes time away from Nioni. We're going to see 5 or 6 players come in, 3 to 4 players leave, and 2 to 3 players be elevated from the youth side that become squad players in the next year, in my opinion. Because this can't all be done. We need an 8-person overhaul, in my opinion. 1 to 25 in this roster. It can't be done in one window. Because, let's not start the FSG out, people. But we know how we're going to spend. So we're going to spend it prudent and smart. We're going to buy some big players. We're going to buy some good buys. We're going to sell some players. And I've said this before. What players do we have that have value to be sold? It ain't Costas. They've listened to you,
What?
Tim. No, it's Kelleher, and it's mediocre. I mean, Harvey Elliott might get you $40 million from a club like Newcastle that's going to go in the Champions League and say that guy can score us goals and do it in a big club in a big stadium. Like, I feel like Elliott is the first person out the building. I'm not even kidding. I feel like the manager has almost told him, you're on your way out. I can't remember one positive quote from Arne Slot all season about Harvey Elliott, and the guy has scored massive goals and had big moments. He's not part of the plans, and it's not even close.
And honestly, if there was any quote, you would remember it because you do all the social media for the quotes and stuff like that. So it goes through you, all those quotes, so you would know.
And I will let anyone circle through all the American Scouser posts. You won't see shit about Harvey in there. You'll see a lot about Curtis Jones and a lot of hate in the comments section, but you don't see anything about Harvey because I just think he was the perfect storm for Klopp. He was a great buy. He was a young player. It was fun. Unfortunately, it's not going to work with this manager. And I think we've kind of seen it almost with Kwanzaa too, because he did everything he could not to put him in at right back in this match. But he had to because Bradley was literally dying on the pitch at 62 minutes.
I mean, I know what boys are saying, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I love Liverpool too. Do you want me on the bench too? I mean, it doesn't work like that. It's just not a matter of like loving the club. But, I love the loyalty, love the kid. And I do hope like there is a scenario that I'm, really doing the gymnastics like Bickler is saying where he fits. But at the end of the day, when we complain about, he's playing the same guys, the goal is whoever is on the bench should be able to do whatever plan A is. And if he can't, then it's like it's not depth. You just have names on a list, but it's not an actual depth. If you can't start Elliott and get what you're getting out of Jones or Szoboszlai or whoever you're happening to be resting and rotating, then it's kind of like pointless. So thanks, man. See, appreciate that.
I mean, he wouldn't put you in, but he'd put you on the bench.
Hey, you know what? I'll collect the. I'll be ox.
It's not actually
collect
real.
Collect the wages. Dance with my socks on the.
You're going straight Kabak. You are going straight Ozan Kabak. The Turkish Turkish center back just shows up. Doesn't need to play.
Put you in if we need a seventh defender.
That'll be my cue. I'll come in like an Ando, but a Turkish center back who comes in the last 2 minutes of the game to close things out, kind of a thing. I'll take a foul and a yellow card. Hey man, there's a job for me. But okay, let's get back to the West Ham game. And I don't know, Bickler, how much of it's that I want to analyze tactically because of what we talked about earlier. But as I watch the game, I don't know, it's kind of like natural now as you come towards the end of the season, especially when the writing is on the wall, like as it is now. I can't help but like kind of look ahead as I'm watching, right? Like this is what we need. This is what we need. That's why I could only stand for 40 minutes before I said we need a freaking left back on Discord. I made it to 40 minutes. But I mean, how much do you look at this game tactically, or how much are you looking at it kind of like the way I'm watching in terms of what it means for the future more than what it means for next week? Because really doesn't matter what it means for next week against Leicester.
I mean, I'm probably watching a bit of both. I think the glaring thing to me, like when I look at what transpired versus West Ham, was the choices for substitution were so bizarre to me because like when I looked at the second half, essentially what West Ham figured out is that like if they don't cede possession and they can make it so that we don't have comfortable retained possession, then we're essentially not great on the back foot with that current back line. And I think what they did was essentially just flip the script, try to put an onus on possession and then make us defend. To me, if you're struggling and you're not possessing the ball well, like I thought like taking Jones out was really strange. Like, I think that like I wouldn't like you're putting Kwanzaa in a weird spot. You're like putting Szoboszlai in, which obviously a great player, but when you're looking to sort of put an emphasis on possession and take the gas out of a game a little bit, that's not the substitution I'd make. If I wanted a player to run and make some attacking moves like Szoboszlai can do, Like I may be looking at like players that we love that he doesn't, like Harvey and in Chiesa, right? But like to me, the substitutions just really highlighted the players that he does not trust on this bench. And I think for me, like they had the opposite effect. Like I thought we got worse in possession with those substitutions. And I think the crazy thing is on the face of those substitutions, I expected us to be worse in possession, which I thought was the most puzzling thing.
See, I honestly, like, as I was watching, as the subs are lining up, I didn't have a huge issue with it, aside from maybe, like, I was hoping like we would see Chiesa personally. I figured like these are games where he can get more minutes and stuff. But I mean, first of all, Jota comes out, Gakpo comes in. This is the 60th minute. And Galdi, like you were saying, Jota was not doing a whole lot of anything. So I guess don't have a problem with that. There is no Nunez to come in the middle. So it kind of made sense to shift Diaz to the middle, put Gakpo on the left. I personally, I'm going to ask you, but I didn't have a huge issue with that. And then Costas coming out. I mean, I don't care if I'm coming in. That's
you were rooting for that. You were rooting for that during the pre-match warm-up. You were rooting for a hamstring injury. Don't you freaking even admit anything else.
I don't have a problem with that either. Like, okay, let's start with the 60th minute. Because honestly, I look at these substitutions and I didn't have a problem with any of them as they were happening. So I honestly, personally, I didn't get the criticism. Go ahead.
As they were happening, I don't know that I had a problem with it because they were what I expected, because this manager has kind of shown, to my comment earlier about like, hey, Chiesa, if these two guys are on the bench, you won't complain. Like, Gakpo was going to be the first attacker to come in, and clearly he was going to come in for the least effective attacker, which, well, in about 18 months or in a lifetime, if you ask the Polish prince, is Jota, right? Like, he was pitiful, by the way. I wasn't even sure he was playing. Like, he was absolutely dreadful again in this match. And it's not even dreadful like his touch was bad or he didn't have a chance to get a shot up. He does nothing because he can't run. He's absolutely gassed. And I know there are people that the Jota lovers are like, he's hurt, he's still injured, he's not fit. Maybe. I just think he's cooked. I genuinely think he's basically run his race at this level, at the top level of world football, which is what Liverpool is. I think Jota is cooked outside of maybe being the guy we wanted Darwin to be all year, the guy to give you 10 minutes from the bench and score you the game winner, like an impact sub. Maybe he still has that. I did the post-match with Kazi, which was craziness in itself.
Prayers out to you, buddy. Okay.
But I'll say this. I after watching back the match and thinking about it more, one thing he was absolutely right about was everything good that was happening in Liverpool's attack and the best player on the pitch up to the moment of that substitution when Gakpo came on was Diaz on the left. Oh, yeah. And he was tormenting young Luis Gallagher
for 2-3 weeks, I would say.
And when you brought Diaz to the middle, he almost became invisible and looked almost like Jota. So I'm starting to put this on the coach to say, maybe you've got no number 9. And because you've had no number 9, you almost ruin every number 9 right now because we're doing nothing to help them. Diaz was so good on the left. And Gakpo does look absolutely lost. Like he looks like the Gakpo last year that folks were like talking about in the Chelsea match, just moping around the field, looking discontent. Because I just feel like if he isn't feeling it, it doesn't work. So I think the manager did the subs he had to do. But to Paul's point, I'm not sure any one substitution made the side better, which for a manager or a coach that we've heralded all year, for his in-game tactical changes and how his subs have made the biggest mark on matches, this wasn't a match where the substitutes made the mark. And if anything, I think the way the team responded after the second round of subs happened and we concede the goal, and then as soon as we're down and it's tied again and we go right back onto the front foot and go full guns blazing and score a goal, almost proves that the coach got it wrong a little bit. Whether it was starting lineup, substitutions.
that to me that's the opposite. I just didn't think. I think it was everybody kind of automatically gearing down on the pitch. Just the fact that they can turn it back on, and you suddenly got the urgency back. It felt like, and I know like Bradley, I think you had to do it. I don't think
100%.
Bradley
That's the
didn't
only
play
one
90 when he wasn't injured, so he's not going to play. So you're going to get Kwanzaa, so obviously you're going to hurt defensively. I don't even know if Costas has 90 minutes in him. I don't even know if Costas has like 9 minutes in him. But either way, so you had to get Robertson in there. And going back to I think Victor was saying earlier, like when you change that much in the back line, you're going to have some like disconnects. Or I think maybe you were saying it when we were talking in the beginning. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like the only alternative, I'll ask you, Victor, I guess, but the only alternative was probably maybe bringing Chiesa for Jota. And I have a different, like a take on Jota. He was not great, but I don't think he's as horrible as everybody constantly makes it, because he was doing a lot off the ball, I thought. But regardless, he was not effective. But the only alternative over there, Bickler, is with no Nunez on the bench, is putting Chiesa in there, because you're not going to put Gakpo in the middle and keep Diaz on the left. At least you feel like, based on what we've seen in the past, aside from when we started the season, when Jota was actually good, and then, you know, like we were kind of like rolling, really the most effective this front three has been is when Gakpo is on the left, Mo is on the right, and Diaz in the middle. So that's why I didn't have a huge problem. And the only alternative is Chiesa up the middle.
We've seen this before. Have we seen Chiesa in the middle? It looked pretty fucking good when we saw it. We saw it for a very short amount of time as a substitute appearance. So we've got a longer litmus of Diaz with a very unimpressive track record in the middle. I don't know why you don't gamble there and do it. But, you know, Diaz has been essentially the best attacking player for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and that includes with Mo Salah. So I understand moving him to the middle and thinking like, you know, you're going to keep your starter for the most part intact around the substitutions you're making. Maybe it's one change too many, right? Maybe it's a change.
Honestly, like if they don't score, Bickler, I really think 80th minute Chiesa comes in. When it was like the way it was going, you knew out of the two, Endo was the closer and he was going to come in. I think if we're up 2-0, you don't see Endo, you see Chiesa coming in and Diaz coming out because he played from the get-go.
Fair. I mean, I think the frontline substitutions were probably the least of the concerning ones to me. I just didn't understand if you're having a trouble in a game where you're trying to get and retain possession. It's weird to me to take Jones in, put Kwanzaa in a back line that's already unsettled. I just thought the combination of those things seemed very bizarre to me.
It's almost like once we made the substitutions, we literally were like, we're going to play a low block. We're just going to go to the possession base. We're going to win this 1-0. So here's my thing. And I think this guy is a tactical genius. But again, I think he had a bad day at the office. If it's me, I'll flip all of these substitutions around. If you're up 1-0 and the plan is to go low block, then why isn't Endo the first sub you bring on?
Yep.
Close shop. Bring your best closer on, give him 30 minutes, and bring him in, maybe even for Gravenberch. Bring him in for Jones, or bring him in for Gravenberch. Keep Jones on the pitch, and then substitute Soboslai literally for Jota, and just have runners everywhere to give you the defensive stability, and you can play with 2 up top. I think the coach has gotten away from what he was doing earlier, because I think earlier he was still figuring it out. I think he's kind of feels like he has the pieces to the puzzle now. He also knows he can make mistakes, and I think that's what happens when you have a net and a 13-point lead in Arsenal dropping 2 points every week is a big net to have. And thank you for that, Mikel Arteta. But I would have brought in, you bring Endo in right there at the beginning. First sub, you basically tell everyone in the side what's going to happen. But I think you take Costas out. I was fine with that. You have to take Bradley out. Now you've got, Kwanzaa on one side. You have Robertson on the other. The whole Gravenberch and McAllister playing every minute of every match seems like it is just kind of a recipe for disaster at times, because they get slower as the matches go on. I feel like the manager got his. I'm not sure he made the wrong subs. I feel like he might have made them in the wrong order. And I think he got very, very lucky because he thought they were going to win that match 1-0. And when it goes 1-1, his guys turned it on and were like, screw this, we're going to go win this. And from the moment they tied it up, we kicked forward like, okay, we'll go forward again. We were just like playing like we were Everton with a few defenders off our own box and they were inviting pressure on like they were playing on the road with like the weak Klopp teams that used to play counterattacking football against big clubs. And they were playing. I mean, if you look at the stats, first half to second half, they had 50 more touches in the final third than we did in the second half.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy.
We dominated the first half. And I think, when they were in control of the game possession-wise, they were able to create a lot more. Obviously, we're playing a lot more open than they did against us in the first half, where they kind of like parked the bus and couldn't get out of their half. But they did create a lot of chances. And honestly, once again, we've had these discussions in the past about Ali, but I think every time I see another game with Ali in goal, I think all those discussions we had in the past look almost like a waste of time. We should have never even like doubted he might go Saudi, and then this guy coming in and stuff like that. It looks like he's just everything we have.
But can we please send a memo to Gravenberch? No more free kicks that we kick back to the goalkeeper, putting him under pressure with a defender. So he has to clear. With the outside of his left foot. He hit that ball, and I literally just let out a explicit of shit that you would think we gave up 3 goals at once. Because I'm like, I can see a hamstring ripping. Like, why is he still kicking the ball out with the outside of his foot?
He loves that. He loves the outside of the foot thing when those balls are coming, and like kind of like gets it towards like that way.
He did look after it, though. He kind of looked at the player like, why did you send that ball back to me? He was not happy he got that ball in that moment. And I appreciate that because, God, the man is so freaking good. And if it wasn't for him, let's be real, XG Associated, they outplayed us in this match. They had more expected goals than we did in this match. They hit the woodwork twice, had 2 breakaways, and he blocked them both.
The first half, the one that he stops, and then the shift that he stops afterwards. Throughout the game. And I think, I've always said that too. There's something to be said about having a goal like that behind, how it impacts how the defense plays too, when you trust the guy behind you in terms of being able to do certain things. And I think we're all in agreement that the goal was on verge. I know every
Not Robertson,
came out of the woodworks, but that had nothing to just you watch the replay and you see the responses from both of them, and Verge walks away like how I walked away after I knew that was on me, and Robo was going ape shit over there because it's it happens sometimes. You hear it, but your ear doesn't tell your brain. And you end up like doing like the reflex thing, and that's basically what happened. He touches that ball, he tries to reach for it, and bounces it into Robertson. But I heard a lot of initially like, this is why Robo is done and stuff, and I was like, that was not even on Robertson. But if you have an agenda to go with that, not to mention I wanted Robertson anyway. Anybody?
I was just gonna say, speaking of agendas, fuck the Greeks.
Not because he's Greek, he's just horrible. I just feel like I've never seen a guy so play with the strength of a 12-year-old, looked like hasn't slept in 12 weeks, and has so lack of confidence when he's on the ball. Like when people pass him the ball, like from Van Dijk, when he gets the ball, it almost, maybe because he's so weak, it looks like he's shaking, like he's not that comfortable. He doesn't want any part of it, it feels like. And I don't think, we talked about this in the past, like maybe he makes a better deal with Diaz. But I think we've seen over time that Robo with Diaz is a better combo. It was just a matter of like adjustment or something like that. But Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, that doesn't have anything to do with the nationality or passport. I know everybody automatically assumes I'm Turkish, he's Greek, but I really don't care if he was from like Istanbul. Yeah, no.
You
Uh,
know as well as I do, Ben, he's getting sold this summer and he is going to Fenerbahce just to F you up
dude,
side, left, right, and
that's
center.
funny because
You
my
know
brother.
that is happening. You can just write it in the stars, people. This is how American Scouser drinks happen.
I hope not. I hope not. Okay, but at the end of the day, we get the 3 point. That's odd. Like, we kind of like have totally different takes. I like to say, especially with the substitutions, because I did see it on Discord a lot too, and I was like, I don't really see anything wrong. It didn't pay, it didn't pay off at the end, obviously. I don't, think that, he was totally playing defense at that point. I think he wanted to get more control. So I see what Bickler is saying in terms of like the players he put in really didn't get the control that we wanted. But at the end of the day, we get the 3 points. Van Dijk kind of makes up for his mistake. Brian says, can we just have a show with too much? It would not be pleasant.
It would be a lot of negativity.
Yeah, it would be a lot of negativity, yes.
And our ratings would go way down in Greece.
Yes, where we really ranked high. But
let's be real, we don't rank high in the states in which we live in. Why would we rank high in a state in which people don't listen to us?
Just give me a 3 weeks heads up so I can start building my Trojan horse for the show.
Fair.
So let me ask you guys this. Obviously, it is possible that we do clinch this thing next week. Do you guys see a possibility? Because honestly, you look at it, they're going away to Ipswich, which is not a great place to go to after coming away from Madrid. Win or lose. I mean, win, you go to the next round. I don't think Arteta and Arsenal already know. I mean, the league is done. They're like, it's not even like, oh, you never know kind of a thing. It's done. And even if they lose, now you have a demoralized Arsenal coming to Ipswich, where they're going against a really physical team. Do you give a possibility, or what is the possibility you give, I should say? Because we better beat Leicester, as horrible as they look. So, Gally, what are the chances that we clinch this thing next weekend? Give me a percentage.
I'd say like 20, and I guess maybe that's just a little bit of faith having in Arsenal, and also we've shown that we'll let lesser teams stick around and play in matches and hang around, and if the wrong thing happens and a mistake, and maybe we rotate a little bit. But I expect the 3 points next week. And because it takes 6 points to guarantee a victory, even though 5 points would do it with the goal difference we have, it won't win it. So if you're asking me, like, we are guaranteed title champions, that means Ipswich has to win. Yeah, and I just watched that team. I watched that team with a 2-0 goal lead at Chelsea and dominate play, still find a way to try to lose it. Yeah. They stink. Absolutely stink. And from what I've heard, Delap's people are saying he's not playing another minute this year because he knows he has a big money move to a top 6 team coming, and he's not willing to chance injury that would lead it. Like, he could have played this weekend and he wouldn't play because he didn't want to do it against Chelsea because he knows that's where he's going.
See, that's icky for me when a player does.
I don't love it, but they're already relegated and he's got a release clause, and if he gets hurt, he'll be playing in the championship next year. And if I'm him, I'm worrying about myself and my career and all that stuff. I don't love it, but I'm telling you, there's a good chance Delap doesn't play. And what I saw this weekend was they got lucky to score early goals, and without Delap, they don't have a way to score a big goal. And I think Arsenal will do just enough to get something out of that match. So for me, 20%, and that might even be high. I think we get it at home against Spurs, and it's a party of parties on Anfield Road.
How about you, Bickler?
I think there is a player in Ipswich that can score big goals, and I think it's Enciso. I think the problem with Enciso is he doesn't play defense, and they can't hold on to a lead. So I'm with Gally. It's like I think even if like they punch above their weight over the course and duration of a match, I have no faith in them holding on to a lead, and that's the problem. Not worried about Leicester. If you take aside this last weekend, that hadn't scored a league goal since January 26th.
I will say this right now. I will double down because I wanted the player when he got signed, and you guys laughed at me at Brighton. If that dude becomes available and Liverpool actually wants a number 10 to play off of what Szoboszlai does, that would be a brilliant South American signing to actually go all in on. Because you watch, at some point, he's going to end up at a big, big club, and he's going to make people be like, wow, there's a reason people in South America said he's better than Julian Alvarez when he came to the Premier League, because he is.
Yeah, he's a
that
special.
would be an interesting move, actually. I wouldn't mind that at all. I would think it would not be as expensive as it's going to be eventually for one. So, Brian says, they're probably still wheeling him out there, but Mo obviously signed this week, and then we're hoping the Van Dijk story, the news is going to come up in the next few days over here. It's kind of like, more of like a when it's going to happen, not if it's going to happen. And is that mission accomplished for you guys, Bickler? And do you think that I asked the Polish Prince this morning, do you think there will be anything that would change Trent's mind at this stage? Because these guys have been told, I know, like we talked about it this morning, so I didn't want to bring up the quote again about, Van Dijk saying it's going to be like a big summer, and that could mean a multiple, a variety of things. But do you think there is a possibility that Trent says, yeah, you know what? This is not looking good on me. Why don't I stick around, make the club some money? I'll go in 3 years or something like that.
So here's the crazy thing. The answer to that question is no, I don't. I think it's very interesting because I feel the same way that I feel about Harvey Elliott that I feel about Trent. All right? Both Scousers, both guys that have been in the side forever, both players that in their prime. Like, I think Harvey deserves to be starting 11 playing elsewhere. And I think Trent has fulfilled a contract, won everything imaginable, and deserves to play where he wants to play. And he's made that very clear. It's not at Liverpool for various reasons. I would love nothing more.
But has he made that clear? That's the part I don't like about it. I know what you're saying, but has he made it clear? He has not. Because he's not signed
a 4-year contract when everyone else at the club was
but that's not saying it, is it? That's planning in the background.
No. He won't say it because he's weak.
That's not, yeah.
No,
well, yeah. I think we're reading between the lines, and I think that's the problem is he hasn't come out and said that, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's fair.
But that's
on him. We're all making assumptions off of what we know, which has been fairly proven at this point. To me, like when I wanted Trent gone was the balloon door comment. That's when I was like, get this fucking guy out of here. Because what he wants is what he wants for him. It's not what he wants for the club. And this club has always been very good at rowing in the same direction. And it started to feel like Trent was rowing in a different direction. And not only on the like when you match that versus what we were seeing on the pitch at that time, we had talked about the fact that at times he seemed disinterested. At times he seemed like he was incapable or unwilling to do what the manager was asking him to do. And we have now seen that over 2 managers, not just 1, 2. And like for me, like I love Trent. I think he's a world-class talent. He brought some incredible things to the table and did things that nobody else was doing at the fullback position. But we built it around him. And we know that we now have a manager that doesn't want to build it around a fullback. Right? And like to me, it's like now is the time. Go. I'm disappointed we didn't get more for him. I'm disappointed that he went and did it in a way that I didn't think was very honest with the club or supporters. That's what I'm disappointed for. But like very much the same way that I want Harvey to go and get his, I want Trent to go and get his. I think that honestly they're going to end up in very different like headspaces. I think it's going to be disappointing for Trent, and I hate that for him. But
I do too. I think Trent
I will turn on a Harvey game and root for Harvey. I think if I'll turn on a Madrid game and root for Trent. Personally, that's the difference for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Because of I'm with you. I'll root for Harvey every match he plays. If he goes to Newcastle or Brentford or one of these clubs, or if he ends up at Dortmund, like talk about a club Harvey could go to and just dominate, go to the German league and be an attacking midfielder in the German league. He might be great at Dortmund, that big yellow wall and him doing this and you'll never walk alone. I would become a German Dortmund fan if Harvey went there. I won't lie. I know I would. I have no concerns or cares what happened to Trent Alexander-Arnold's professional football career once he leaves Liverpool. And to Paul's point, he said all the right things that made us all engage to him. We defended him when everyone else in the world called him a shait right back. When the English supporters hated him because he wasn't fitting into what Southgate wanted to do and all the drama there. We all were like, we're Scouts, not English, all this stuff. At the end of the day, he changed his tune because his goals changed. And I've always said this. That's what made me the most upset. So, like, there's no coming back from this. I honestly don't know if he offered to sign a 2-year contract right now and said, but you sell me next summer so you get a fee. I don't think Michael Edwards would do it for 2 reasons. One, he doesn't like to be shown up by players that he offered club record fees to and wages. And 2, Real Madrid was never signing Trent Alexander-Arnold if it took a market value offer. They orchestrated this with his people to force him into this free transfer, and it was booked out 4 years ago when he signed the deal. Because no kid in their early 20s signed 4-year deals in their prime. They signed bigger, longer contracts because halfway through it, you renegotiate for double the amount, unless you already know you're leaving at the end of it for nothing.
And that's why I don't like. I'm not on. Yeah, that's why I think the whole thing.
So mad.
I personally would not want him to change his mind and stay at this point because I think the bridges have been burnt. And honestly, if he stays now, to me, it's more about this is not. I did not plan this right. This is looking really bad on me. I think the fact that 2 out of the 3 stayed, and the one that you would think would be a no-brainer. You know, we're talking about Harvey earlier, loving Liverpool, and will stay in a diminished role and stuff. The guy, I think honestly, he's gonna get, and he already is, more from people in Liverpool as opposed to us bozos over here in the US, because I think there's a bigger connection to the city and the club, and they've been, he's been the Scouser on the team and stuff like that. So there's a bigger connection there, and I think they're more upset at him than even we are. I just don't like how he went about it. And at this point, if he said, I'll come back and do 2 years, and he was like, I didn't plan this well, I'll sign a contract, I'll go in 2 years, they'll get money for me, it won't look as bad and stuff, it will just look dirty and it will smell bad to me, and I just would not want it, especially if he's going to go out there and like trot around and just looking to pass and not defend and stuff like that. It's like, what's done is done. Would be great to get like 40, 50, 60, whatever from him, but at this point, it is what it is. Kevin says I couldn't cheer for Zaha. Yes, but honestly, just going to go outside by itself is an automatic root against factor for.
Surprised no one voted for him when
he was should be rooting for players.
So I've got to root for anyway.
I just think what it comes down to with Trent is that, and I said this earlier, like, anyone who's watched this program or been a fan of all of our channels, looked at our social media, we've had a lot of people come through this areas, and there's been the loyalists, there's been the people who are detractors, right? I knew I was on the right side of the Trent Alexander-Arnold good bad scale when the full announcement came that he was leaving, and our good friend from this program, Megan, went full in 2-footed tackle on Trent and his people. And I said to myself, if Megan is writing him off, I don't even have to apologize to anyone, because there is no more tried and true defendant Liverpool supporter than our good friend Megan that used to follow us and was part of this whole thing. And she would told me, and we messaged about it recently, where she was like, she agreed with everything I was saying about his people and the timing and how it changed. The man changed his priorities. And unfortunately for him, I honestly believe he thought the club might change their priorities around him. And they went out and hired a guy who had no interest in anything but his own ideals. And I think last summer, he probably had an interview or a meeting with Schlott, and literally walked out, texted his brother, and was like, let those fuckers in Madrid know we're in.
Schlott told me I have to turn 3 degrees left to be able to defend better. I am not turning. So I'm going to Madrid.
I'm not defending.
And I think that's I mean, I've been saying this all along, but I mean, if I'm a player on that team right now, and if I'm like, what does Van Dijk make? Okay, that sounds about right. What does Mo make? Okay, that sounds about right. Looking at what they're doing, I don't know if I'm McAllister and I want Trent making twice as much as I am, and I have to run around another 20% just to
there isn't a fullback in the world worth what Trent wants.
Exactly.
And they're not the same player by talent. Sorry, I know you're wrapping up, Tim, but they're not the same player. But over 2 seasons in the Premier League, with less than 1,000 minutes less, Bradley has 2 less assists and 1 less goal. His output over 2 years hasn't been great.
We'll probably talk about this more. I'm not totally sold on Bradley yet either. This is a good 6 games for him to kind of show him that, I guess what we were talking about Jones earlier. But I still don't think if we're entering next season as him as the starting penciled in, I don't know how comfortable I will be, but I guess we'll worry about that once we win the title. And hopefully when we come here next Monday, we will be talking about the title winning. Are we bringing cigars and stuff? Are we going all out on Monday night then if it's announced?
Sure. Let's go Boston Celtics, just lighting victory cigars all the way through the building. Or
we can go Philly fans. I can just go to the driveway and turn my car over or whatever. We can just do.
We don't need to do that. I mean, that's not good. Then Angie's gonna have to buy you a new car. That won't be good.
I'll be on the bench making a lot of money at Liverpool because I love Liverpool, guys. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us this week. We will be back same time next week, hopefully celebrating number 20, or we'll almost be there one way or the other. But have a great week, everyone. Take care.